You are now live with Dylan Kimlin.
Hello everyone, this is Dylan Kimlin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to take a look at the NPL Finals that are on this weekend, take a look at the teams and some statistics behind the scenes leading throughout the entire season. I'm also going to take a little bit of a look at Div 2 and how those teams are going, and we'll also take a look at the Kooyong, which will be on in a couple of weeks' time. I'm pleased to announce that I'll be commentating both the NPL Finals and Kooyong, and I'm absolutely stoked to be able to do so. I've had a little bit of a break from the pro space in pickleball. I definitely focused a lot more on the amateur and non-pro events throughout this year. And I was definitely covering a lot more of other sports that were at the same time slots as the pro events. So to finish off the year being able to do some of the pro events, I'm very pleased to be able to do so. And I know a bunch of you players have requested I get back into commentating pro events as well. So hopefully you're all happy to hear that. Now, if you haven't yet, please follow us on socials. I'll be keeping everyone up to date with what's going on throughout the both the finals and the Kooyong event at the end of the year. But also 2026 is going to be gigantic. Now, I am going to do a video looking at the tournament schedule for 2026. That'll be coming up after this. And I've also, as I alluded to in my last video, I do have some groundbreaking news that I cannot release yet. Just waiting for the AOK from the legal team before I go big and give you all an update on what's going to quite literally change the Australian pickleball scene for good. So let's get into NPL. So National Pickleball League, I've obviously commentated the Green Zone and their previous seasons. We had the Super broadcast before that. So I've done it more or less since it started. So I love working with the NPL events. I love the players. I love the teams. And just seeing just the fun of these events, but also how serious it can get considering the prize money. Now, this season, we've had a, how do I word it? We've had a pretty interesting space with how it's all panned out with the teams and how they're performing. And we're going to take a look at how they're all doing. So, before I bring up the screen, there we go. So, this here is called Ladder. And Ladder is a revolutionary software application that I think it will become public. I'm not too sure if it's public yet. If you at home can look into it, but I know it will be going public. The NPL have given the okay for me to show you all and talk about it. But long story short, it has all the statistics you could ever want. Now, I've made it pretty clear from the get-go that I think the Australian pickleball scene, we need this. We just don't have any stats. We don't have any data on our players, and Ladder is exceptional at this regard. Now, from a commentator's perspective, this is like an absolute dream come true because I can just pull stats up and talk about it. And the proof's in the pudding. The players that do well, statistically, we can see it. And additionally, if you're not on that playing well side, I just try my best not to talk about it. I'm pretty nice in the commentary booth. So if we have a look at this season, we can just click here and take a look. We'll bring up all of the sides and how they're all doing. Now, throughout the season, obviously, Ladder has had so many results throughout all of it across the teams. Now, this here, obviously, we're looking at the pros, but we've also got all the Div 2 data there as well. I will cover their finals a little bit, hopefully. And on that note, I've really pushed the NPL guys that I can hopefully commentate the Div 2 grand final. It's up to the NPL guys, but I'm rooting for your Div 2s. I really want to cover it. We'll see what happens. But if I have a sticky pick, obviously with the teams, there have been some pretty major team changes throughout the season. We had players with injury, players pull out, rah-de-rah-de-rah. I think across the board, the sides obviously had a smaller season this year, which I haven't really asked the players whether they preferred it or not, but we can do that when I have a chat to them all at Kooyong. I'll be doing the finals remotely, as I used to do with Ash. For the finals for this time around, I'll be doing it with James Cornish, who used to play in the NPL, so that's amazing. He's going to give some great insights as well. Hopefully Ash is back in the thick of it next season when we start in 2026, and maybe James as well. It'd be cool. We could have a cool new dynamic going through it. On that note, the social media teams for the season have been phenomenal, so well done to everyone that's been involved with that. But all of the information you can find, it is publicly available via the NPL Pickleball website, so nplpickleball.com.au. They're having a little bit of they've had a couple little bits and bobs and changes. Some of these team lineups are still not accurate. As I mentioned, we have had players pull out and whatnot, but the overall fixtures this season have been really cool. And this is why I love ladder. I can just show you everything. There's no hiding. The stats are there. Now, this is the total combined amount over the season, how everyone went. And I can say the seedings for finals. So everyone performed is that the Heat came first with a absolutely ridiculous win-loss percentage. Tide came second, Boroughs third. That was the first in New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland. And then it was followed by, Heat, Tide, Boroughs. Sorry, don't mind me having a moment. New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland. Then obviously the Roos, Bandies, Brumbies, followed by the Comet, Outback, Opals, and then the Sharks, Adders, and Stingers. Now, it's interesting because in the playoffs, we will see the Heat, Tide, and Boroughs coming in first, second, third. Roos, Bandies, and Brumbies, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Comets, Outback, and Shark, seventh, eighth, ninth. So that means obviously 3 teams didn't go through, which is the Opals, Adders, and the Stingers. Now, pretty rough, unfortunately for, these guys, and ladder shows everything. The Adders started really strong. Now, I did mention that the Tide were the top team in Victoria. So for the Adders to start at a 3-2 against Tide and then completely bail out is, really unfortunate. And hopefully these guys can, bounce back in the following season. But I think overall, I thought the Adders would have done a little bit better than they did, and they probably had high expectations as well, but just couldn't get it done in the end, unfortunately. Now, the Stingers is a big, big one. Now, they were obviously a very highly considered side for last season, so for them to drop out, I know Captain Cole Stoker had an injury, and he would be absolutely kicking himself that he didn't get a chance to, really go through. So Kyle Anderson, I guess, had to step up for how they're doing. But across the board, their side in the end just didn't really have any luck. Now, you could say injuries were a thing, and I'm going to say that the reason the players were not involved is why the Opal struggled this season. Now, I thought last season it was an absolute travesty that the Opals didn't make finals. I mean, I'm a big fan of Danny Townsend. I think she's one of the best players in the country, and their side, no good. Ironically, both Deb Rossi and Dan Fogel-Coolidge will be going through to finals. So it goes to show that those two deserved with Opals to go through. Now, the Opals this season, Danny got shafted again, but this time it was because 2 of her players got picked for national representation. Very rough. I'm not going to blame the players at all. You're going to represent your country, do you? But I can understand if Danny might have been a bit upset about it because it was sort of a last-minute announcement and these players just got pinched. That was Taya Cross and Ollie Gray. So, rough, yes. And I'm going to pencil that as the reason why the Opals probably had a bit of a struggling season compared to what was probably expected at the start of the season. I probably had them a 1 or 2 seed. But regardless, those 3 sides will not be going through to finals. Now, the teams that will be going through, it's pretty interesting. Obviously, Boroughs, Brumbies, Outback, they all went through for Queensland last season, with the Boroughs sort of bowing out pretty early. Brumbies and Outback, obviously Outback went through to win it, but Brumbies, I think, last season, and Captain Joey Wild may or may not agree with this, but I think they just flagged a little bit in their final match. Obviously, Joey's going to come out firing to try and change that tune for the Queensland sides this season. But obviously, if we have a look at their counterpart with the Boroughs, obviously they're up top of the table for Queensland. The Boroughs across the board just, they've got the top female duo in the National Pickleball League with Captain Sarah Dennehy and Summer Bonner. Now, I am of the very firm belief I am going to do my 2025 tournament review where I go through and I do this every year. Sarah is hands down the most improved player in Australian pickleball. There's just no one that even comes close. She went from a, pretty solid player, I think everyone would agree with that, to literally top 3 in Australia female player. Potentially, you could argue, is she number 1? Is she number 2? Like, she's in that conversation. So Sarah is definitely MIP. I don't think, people might disagree, but I definitely feel that Sarah's in this conversation. And obviously teaming up with Summer Delabona, one of the best players in the country. That's just a deadly duo. Now, if we have a look, their final match. Now, Queensland was a bit wacky this season, viewers, I will be honest. We just had so much rain. The NPL in Queensland, they have copped it with rain. They've just been really unlucky this last, 12 months. But their final matchup, if you have a look at the women's singles, now, this here is pretty damning. B. Horsley is a terrific player, and I will talk about the Brumbies. There's the so Deb Rossi effectively came in as a full-time sub throughout the year. I don't like Deb probably would never say that she's like a single specialist, whereas Sarah's very good at singles. So that 11-0, I wouldn't pencil too much in on it. But for Sarah, she's got to get those results done. So she did that. Summer regarded as one of the best singles players in Australian pickleball history. So that's a big win because B is very solid as well. Now, the Boroughs last season, you could probably argue that they are more flagged on the male players side of things. So they've got Nige Lee in, which that's a very interesting matchup with Nige and Joey because Nige did beat Joey at one of the NPL tournaments that we held in Sydney this year. So Joey got up on him there with an 11-8, and obviously Josh Chia coming in for the Boroughs. I believe he might have been a super sub in this instance. I'm not too sure who's going to be playing for them for the finals. If Josh is in, that's amazing. Good for Josh too. Getting a win on Nikki Mal. On the topic of most improved players of the Australian pickleball space on the pro level, Nikki Mal is definitely he's in that category. I think Nick Mal, Josh Nepris, you've got Matt Kuznetsov. They're all in that conversation. I'd probably give it to Rob Sterling though. And you're probably saying, Dylan, what are you talking about? He was really good last year. And I would say yes. But now Rob is similar to Sarah. He's in that top 3 conversation. He's dominating in Asia. So for me, Rob might have just pipped these other fellas. But Nicky Mallon's had an elite 2025. I'm very happy for him. He's done so well. So for Josh to get that victory there in that particular matchup, just high quality pickle. But the Boroughs and Brumbies are just exquisite pickleball to watch how these teams are going to go through to the finals. And I'm really happy to see Nige doing well too. Obviously, the West Australian out there dominating. Big Nige getting it done. Now, the Outback, the Premiers, how are they going to go? Their season, you look at those results, viewers, they only just pipped the Opals. Just got it done. And you could say it came down to the last match. With their their women's team, in theory, is very strong. Obviously, Crystal Mildwaters is, the women's space in Australian pickleball, viewers, for the pros is so strong. We have so many good, just high-level female players coming through. Crystal's in that conversation. Obviously, Nicola Scuban has had an elite year, and I would not be surprised if she ends up number 1 in Australia at some point. I've already mentioned Sarah. We've obviously got, Andy D, Rose Van Reek, those ladies as well. But Crystal is another one who I think it's a matter of time before she is comfortably seated in that top 3. Her discipline and drive at events and just training in general is out of this world. Now, Lindsay Baker, obviously she's had a lot of experience with NPL Finals coming in, playing here for the Outback. And the Outback are a very interesting side because I believe they're the only NPL side that has 2 Finals MVPs in their team. So obviously Harrison Brown and Lindsay Baker both playing for them. Across the board, I think the Outback, they have a pretty good side. It just comes down to, can they get it done against other good sides, Now, they've obviously got Aaron Johnson, the Tomahawk as well. And that's where I think it's going to be, the win and loss. Singles, they are very strong. The Outback are a very, very strong single side. It's just going to come down to the doubles. And, we can see here with the Opals matchup, the fellas got, I don't want to say blown out, but the end result wasn't positive for the Outback. So, and this is the most recent stats. Obviously, they might have had a rough day or whatever. But if we have a look at their last matchup, which was against the Brumbies, you know, gender doubles, the Brumbies absolutely thrashed them. So I'm not going to discount. I'm not going to count out the Outback. They're the premiers for a reason. It just depends which Outback we're going to get. If those guys fire, all good, no dramas. So we'll see how the Queenslanders pan out. Now for the Victorians, Tide obviously top of the ladder. The Victorian space is very interesting this season, viewers, in that I think they probably lost a few of their super elite players, and so as a result, it's almost plateaued a bit, and the Tide took advantage. 17 points total, which that's why they're second on the overall ladder. They had a terrific season. Their final matchup against the Roos, they obviously did quite well. I think their female duo is pretty solid overall. Like, it's just a solid duo. Obviously, Emily Martin, Aisha Dang coming across, and they're almost in the same boat as the Outback. Can they fire against the really, really top end players? And we will see. I'm a huge fan of their male players. Hamish Bartos is the South Australian, is just exceptional. And he, obviously, I mentioned Matt Kuznetsov earlier. His last matchup, he went down against Matty Kay. But for Hamish, he's another player that's similar to some of the ladies I mentioned earlier. It won't be long before he's really firing up the ramps in regards to the rankings. I just think he needs to keep bubbling away. And he keeps getting these opportunities. The teams obviously like him. They want him to perform. This is just a matter of time. The Bunsen burner, Ethan. I've been a fan of Ethan for a long time. Great. He's obviously had captaincy role with the Sharks last season. Coming in now, playing with the Tide. I think the Tide could potentially cause some mishaps. They're a team that's like, I think if you were the Brumbies or the Heat, the Boroughs, they'd be like, they shouldn't pencil a win against the Tide, because if the Tide fire, you're in trouble. And I think overall they're just their results speak for it. They've had a terrific season, thrashed the Adders in round 4, and had a couple of 3-1s or 3-2s to their name as well. So terrific effort from the Tide. To me, they're the Roos the Roos last season, that's the Tide now. Everyone probably kind of just disregarded them, and they've just come out and just wiped the floor with Victoria. So well done to the Tide. Now the Roos are an interesting prospect. They did go down against the Tide in their last matchup, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to go. Now, their female players, I haven't really covered much. So for me as a spectator, this is amazing. I love seeing new names on our lists. Obviously, I know the gentlemen really well. Matty Kay, Sahil Dang, my goodness, what a duo. That is so strong. Sahil Dang is going to be terrifying in 1 or 2 years. He is just so solid, has massive reach, really good temperament as well, just handles it like a pro. I've already talked about Matty Kay. At the start of the year, I said Matt Kuznetsov will be, he will make a name for himself, and he's done that. So the Roos, how will they go? I mean, I'm looking at my sheet that you guys at home can't see. Do I have the draws, and have they been announced yet? Maybe I should be quiet. Either way, I think the Roos... Would you want to go up against the Roos for your first matchup? I'm going to put we will see with the Roos. If they could be potentially like the Tide. I think Victoria in general could be like... They could cause mayhem, and that would be awesome if it happened. Then we have the Sharks coming through for third. They'll be obviously going through to the playoffs. And I'm just having a look here to see. Yeah, so I do have bits and bobs here, but I'm not really going to bring it up in this particular video. It'll all be announced on socials anyway. By the way, follow the National Pickleball League on social media if you haven't yet. Their social media work has been elite this season. It's been very good. Now, the Sharks are an interesting one. They've obviously had injury concerns as well. The big street shark himself, Mr. Zach Grab, was out. But Steph Georgic has come in. Great to see Steph out there strutting his stuff. I know he didn't really get picked last season, and I know he would have had a point to prove coming out in this season. And obviously the Sharks have got their chance. So let's see if they can take it in full stride. I mentioned already DFK last season in the Opals didn't have any luck getting into this playoffs this season. Great to see. I'm a big fan of the Fog, the man with the van. So it's good to see him doing well, and obviously teaming up with Steph Georgic. That's a very interesting pairing, those two together. I kind of want to see how it goes. Now, the ladies' side of things for the Sharks. So, yeah, we've got Kelly Martin. Now, Amelia Richter, I don't know if I've commentated on her before. I've definitely called Kelly's matches as well. She was one last season that everyone was like, all right, she's going to be trouble. She's going to cause some mayhem. So, once again, Victoria. To me, Victoria are the wild cards of this finals. We just don't know how they're going to pan out and see if they, cause some trouble for everyone, which is, I hope so. Go on, Victoria, get it done. Speaking of Victoria, my goodness, I have 3 weekends in Victoria coming up. So I'm calling 3 events in Victoria. NPL Finals, into the Melbourne Grand Slam, into Kooyong. So you Victorians are very lucky with your pickleball at the late stages of the year. Now let's look at New South Wales, and we can look at the terrifying prospect of the heat. Look at all those 4 zeros. My goodness. So they are, simply put, dominant. They have to come in as the number 1 seed. They have to come in as the favourites going into the end results. Now, their duo of Selena and Shannon have been bawling out. There's no other way about it. Selena Taruya, I mentioned all these high-level ladies earlier. Her and Mickey Hyatt from New South Wales are obviously in that. They've been in that category for a long time, and they can simply dismantle teams. There's no way about it. Now, from the gentleman's side of things, Matt Button. What a great player he is. So for Barton, obviously for the OG pickleballers that have seen him in the past, when he signed up for this season, I was personally surprised. But it's great to see him out there. He has, historically done some damage. Brian Tran as well. Look at that. Big win against Kyle Anderson, finishing off his season for the singles side of things. So I think you can't, statistically, you can't just write off the Heat. I will say last season, we said the same thing about the Heat. And then the Outback did Outback things. So how will the Heat go? That's probably one of the biggest storylines for their finals. We're just going to, can they perform? Now, second place, we have the ragtag bunch of the Bandicoots, led by the biggest larrikin of all in Mr. Adam Walters. I've always got a soft spot for the Bandies. Great to see them out there. Their final matchup was half-half. They obviously went down 3-1 overall, but I don't know if I put too much into it. The Comets, low-key, and will they rise to the occasion in the finals? I think you cannot discredit the Bandies at all. Now, they have Tyra Calderwood, just exceptional singles player and pretty handy on the doubles court as well. Louise Oxnard, I had the pleasure of calling Louise at the NZ Open this year. She, look at that, against Nancy. Nancy Riley, very good player, and Louise just got it done. So, once again, the Bandies are a team, especially on the women's side of things, they can cause some trouble. For Tyra to get 6 against Michaela is a pretty good effort. Mickey Hyatt, definitely one of the top singles players in the NPL season. Now, for the gentlemen's side of things, their final matchup in the singles, they have James Wilson. Now, talking about Kiwis, we've got the Kiwi connection here with the Comets. James is, I think he might be one of the most underrated players in the NPL. And ironically, I've got a bunch of notes here from the NPL team. They have listed James Wilson as the most underrated player in the NPL. So I'm a big fan of James. I think he just goes about it the right way. Getting a win on Kyron like that, my goodness, that's not easy. Big finish there for James. taking down Kyron. And obviously, I believe on the rumour mill, Ben won't be playing the finals for the Comets, Mr. Poor Fury, which is a real shame. I've covered the Poor Furies for quite a long time now, so we'd love to see Ben there. But if he's not available, then we'll see who they get as a sub. Now, regarding the Bandies, as I was talking about earlier, their duo of Kyron Lavers and Adam Walters, oh my goodness, how strong is that team? And that's why I think the Bandies, across the board, they just have a good team. Like, that's just an overall good team. Kyron, Adam, Tyra, and Louise, on paper, that's an exceptional side. So they can definitely go far in finals. Just depends on which Adam we get and his cognitive state leading into the finals. Now, obviously, we touched a little bit there on the Comets, so their final matchup against the Bandies. Let's see how they went against the Stingers. Obviously, the Stingers had some injury concerns, but they have Mickey Hyatt, Nancy Riley, so Nancy and Mickey, very strong women's duo. I think, yeah, Mickey is like, she's just one of those players, you just pencil her in as a win each. And I'm sure captains do this. They just pencil, yeah, that's a win. You know, she's one of those players for women's singles. Very rarely does she have a loss. Nancy probably prefers the doubles format, but she can cause upsets in singles as well. Now, for their gentlemen's side of things, their finals matchup. So, as I mentioned, James Wilson, what a superstar he is. And yeah, it's really going to come down to, is Ben Porphyry playing or not? Comets are, for the New South Wales side of things, they are a wait and see. I'm very curious because I think it's really going to come down to, if they have a sub, who their sub is. So time will tell. Hopefully I'm wrong and Ben can make it. That'd be good. Now, obviously I already mentioned on the sides that didn't make it through, but let's talk about the regular season MVP. So in round one for Queensland, we had Danny Townsend, Nikki Mount. In New South Wales, we had Shannon Spencer, Brian Tran. And in Victoria, we had Ayesha Dang and Sahil Dang. So the two Dangs getting it done for round one. Round two, we saw Summer Delabona and Harrison Brown for Queensland. New South Wales saw Selena Toruya and Matt Barton. Victoria, we saw Emily Martin and Matt Kuznetsov. Now, for round three, we did see Summer Delabona, Joey Wild getting it done for Queensland. New South Wales was Mickey Hyatt and James Wilson. And in round three for Victoria, we did see Ayesha Dang and Matt Kuznetsov. Now, why I'm bringing up MVPs, obviously, it's a good way to see how each player is going, but it's relevant to the prize money. So for the prize money this season, if you come first, your side gets 50K straight off the bat. Second place gets 25, third place gets 15, fourth place gets 10, and then it goes down from there. So every side does get some money. Now, for each round MVP, which I just talked about, they get $500 per person. For the season MVPs, it's $1,500 per person. And for finals MVP, which is really big, Harrison Brown, as I mentioned, secured it last season, were for $5,000 per person. Lindsay Baker as well for the Outback as well, mentioned, got it as well. So pretty big deal. Now, from memory, it was a tied MVP last season, if memory serves me right. You can let me know in the comments who else got finals MVP, but focused on this season. Now, for the playoffs, I do have the draws here, and I'm sure you at home can figure it out. I'm going to not talk about it in case it's not public information yet. Oh, I really want to talk about these games. No. Oh, well, we know which teams it'll be. So it's obviously going to be the Comets, the Sharks, and the Outback. When they verse each other, etc., we don't know. So you can figure that out soon. But I will say, Comets, Shark, and Outback, who goes through from those guys? Comets do have a very strong side, but they might have a substitute, which would mean I would probably back the Outback unless they had a very strong substitute. Sharks, how will the Sharks go? You got to back the Premiers, surely. Tough to call. I would not want to be versing the Outback after playoffs if they go through. I'm going to back the Outback just because they have won it previously. However, I would be not surprised if the Comets got through as well. Sharks, please, if you guys get through, I'd be very happy as well. So, but I think Comets and Outback probably. Because you look at Comets, they only came third by 1 point. So they're definitely in the mix. Either way, time will tell. Now, before I get into the final side of things, let's have a look at Div 2. Now, I'm not going to rant on too much about Div 2, but I am very happy to talk about how their seasons have gone. Now, for the Div 2, the Rangers were the top of Victoria with 12 points. They only dropped one match all season. Captain Rosa Morris led the way. Look at that plus minus 80 in Victoria. My goodness, absolutely dismantled sides. Ironically, their last matchup was their first loss. So they had a terrific season across the board. And Chris Marcy, strong player. Josh Fisher, also strong player. Those gentlemen as a duo, that's pretty no nonsense. I already mentioned Rosa. Her and Claire Butler. Now, Claire, I haven't had a chance to cover yet, but look at that win against Memory Lelanoa. Memory's very solid. Claire coming out in 11-1. Pretty scary. So she might be one for captains for next season to just be quietly penciling down that name and see how she performs in the Div 2 finals. Now, the other sides for Div 2, we obviously did see the Dinkers come through for Victoria with the 15 points. They were the best side for the season. The Dinkers have a pretty great group. Great to see Tanabe. Now, I have a feeling Tanabe might be coming in for one of the players. I do have a substitute list here. I think he might be playing for Ben Porphyry, potentially. Either way, he's going to have a very busy week. Hopefully that's publicly announced. If not, there's a little spoiler for you. But for Tanabe, took down Kane Townsend. Obviously, Kane had he's going to be an up-and-coming superstar the more he keeps playing. But for Tanabe, who will potentially be playing both Div 1 and Div 2, he has a giant week ahead of him. And I kind of want to have a Tanabe watch. We can just see how's he doing. How's his electrolytes? We can have, I don't know, we'll get a running steps meter on him because he's just going to be running around non-stop. Obviously, he's playing up against Flynn Burridge. I'm really happy to see Flynn getting through to finals. He's a absolutely just little hype machine, and he's been very busy on the social media things side as well. So we're probably going to know more about how the Dinkers go more than the Div 1 teams, if Flynn has anything to do with it. So good luck to the Dinkers going through, and their ladies as well. So they have a very experienced duo, Simone Kessel, and Sharon Tyndall Ford, and I always butcher Kessel's first name, sorry. Very solid team, and they're the kind of duo that they're very similar. I was talking about the ladies duos earlier. They're the kind of duo that can just wipe teams, which we've seen here. For Div 2, they are so strong. So I really like the look of the Dinkers. Now, for the Opals, obviously for Div 2, their last win against the Outback, they ran riot with Ryan Simmons doing very well, taking down Jason Smith. I had the pleasure of calling Jason this week. He played very well as well. So Luther beating David Rose, that is not an easy win. David Rose very handy on the singles court. Luther, definitely one of our up-and-coming young superstars. He has such a good temperament as well. I want him to succeed. Great to see him getting some big victories on his belt, and hopefully for Div 2 gets a, they're another side that's really going to cause some trouble. I really want to keep up with the the Div 2 players and see how they go. Now, Irie, Heather Pereira, I've talked about Indy and Irie a lot. They are, in my opinion, in a couple of years' time, they are going to be the Australia's best women's doubles duo. I'm willing to call it now. Those two as a pairing, the righty-lefty combo is elite. They have an entire community, all these clubs supporting them. They're just a good news story. So well done to those guys. And they're playing with Jane Teo. Jane's had a lot of experience across the board from both the NPL, MLPA side of things. You know, she's no slouch at all. So for the Div 2, for the Opals, yeah, that Div 2 is going to be good. Once again, please, NPL, let me commentate the Div 2 Grand Final, please. Make it happen. I don't care if I have to work extra time. I'll do it for free. I just want to call the Div 2s. They need some love. So we'll see how the Div 2s all pan out. But if we go back to the pros, so leading into it, we will see some pretty interesting storylines across the board. Now, for the qualies, so I've already mentioned the playoffs with the Outback, Comets and the Sharks. But for the qualies, we will see the Roos and the Heat, Tide and the Boroughs battling it out. Now, the Heat, I mentioned them earlier. They're in a very interesting spot because they had a terrific last season, couldn't get it done at crunch time. Now, they're going up against the Roos, who I said, you know, these guys can do some damage. They have a pretty solid team across the board. All right, who takes the victory? Yeah, I reckon if the boys can fire, the Roos with that male duo, those Roos can take on just about anyone. Imagine like a duo like those two up against like the Brumbies or something. Be good to watch. Either way. Now, Tide and Boroughs, who gets a victory there? Tide did have a very good season. All right, so I think the women's duo will be too strong for the Tide. I mean, Sarah and Summer are just outrageous. But for the men, man, Ethan and Hamish are a good duo. Jeez, that's going to be a good match. That might come down to a deal breaker. I'm not going to call that one. We will see how it pans out. Now, I'm just reading my notes here as we go along. I do think, yeah, Hamish Bartos, if he fires in that duo, in that matchup, that might be pretty dangerous across the board. How are we doing for time? Nearly 40 minutes. I'll slowly start wrapping this up. So one thing I wanted to just bring up, obviously all information is going to be on the NPL socials, but and hopefully we get a bunch of deal breakers. You can catch it all on the NPL YouTube channel. The Green Zone has been so much fun throughout this year to call, and we will have a bunch of announcements going through. But one final announcement I can just do before I wrap it up is the Kooyong. So the SIPC Invitational, or the NPL Invitational, sorry. For NPL always has banger events right at the end of the year. Just before Christmas time, NPL is just like, all right, we're just going to chuck this out there. And it's like, okay, we're in for a treat. Kooyong, if you don't know, is a legendary tennis tournament. To be able to cover this event in person, I'm so excited. It's just the perfect way to end the year. So their teams are just unreal. Like, this is just going to be high quality nuts pickleball across the board. Now, I'm just going to leave those teams up and I'll just go along. You at home can read them. Hopefully you can see them. Yeah, you can sort of see them. Either way, it's up on Pickleball Tournaments as you go along. There's James there. He'll be playing with Chris. He'll be commentating with me for the NPL Finals. But across the board, some of these teams are It's just going to be amazing to watch. Good to see the big Vuk back. And once again, going from this to the Melbourne Grand Slam to the finals to Melbourne Grand Slam to Kooyong, this is just going to be an absolute treat. Now, I might do a little bit more of a deep dive into Kooyong leading up to it. We'll see. Actually, what we're going to do is for the NPL Finals, where James and I are going to do a talk about the Kooyong. So I might leave that for that particular segment with the NPL guys. That's probably better. But we will wrap things up for this episode, viewers. How do you think it's going to pan out? How do you think it's going to turn, like the whole event? Who's going to take this? Can you look past the heat? Who do we call here, viewers? I kind of like the Brumbies, if I'm being dead honest. Is that controversial, considering they're not even in the top 3? Maybe. They just have just such a strong... Yeah, I'm going to do a bit of a hot take, and I'm going to back the Brumbies, even though they're not in the top 3. Yep, I'm going to stick with it. I just think their team across the board can handle most situations. Now, it's going to depend on which B. Horsley we get, which Joey Wild we get. I think Nicky Mal is going to tear teams up. He has historically done so well in NPL Finals. He loves it. He just gets up teams. And as a result, I think they're going to do very strong. Now, I could be completely wrong there. I think also, on the topic of the Brumbies, Joey is going to be cranky considering how the Brumbies went last season. He's going to have a vendetta. He's going to want to come out and absolutely dominate teams. So I think we're going to have an angry Joey. Yes. Come out and destroy teams, Joey. But yeah, I don't know. Who can, as a male duo, who can stop Joey Wild and Nicky Mal? Let's have a look. Here we go. This is when the Boroughs lost last as a gendered doubles. So they did lose 12-22. So it can be done. The men's singles. Time will tell, viewers. Let me know in the comments who you think's going to take it. I'm going to stick with my prediction of the Brumbies. I could be completely wrong, and if I'm wrong, so be it. You guys can give me cheek about it on social media. If you haven't yet, please follow us, like, share, and subscribe. We have so much amazing content coming up in the Green Zone. I can't believe just how good it's going to be. Kickstarts this Friday coming up. It's going to be amazing. James and I in the booth, live on the NPL YouTube channel. I look forward to diving into it all. Hopefully, we get to see the Div 2 Grand Final, but also we will be covering all of the Div 1 action going through on the Green Zone. Dylan Kimlin here. I look forward to seeing you very soon. 3 weeks in Melbourne. It's going to be exquisite. What an awesome way to finish the year. Look forward to seeing you then.